Now you guys are probably wondering what's involved in getting this head unit stuffed into this dash. And overall the process isn't too bad, so I'll just go over a few of the things I did. Hey guys, welcome to Envision Prototypes. I hope everybody's doing good out there. Well, as you can see, I'm working from the inside of my daily driver. It's a 93 Dodge Ram 3/4 ton pickup truck, and it's got the Cummins turbo diesel in it. Pretty good truck, actually very good truck, and really enjoying it. Well, I'll tell you guys what happened to lead up to all this here. I was coming home last night, listening to the radio like most people do, and well, I heard a bit of a crackle out of the right speaker over there, and a bit of a whine over here. Kind of, it was strange. And then about 30 seconds later, I heard a pop, and it was quiet. Well, except for the engine. That's all you heard, and that's all you hear most of the time. I played around with the dials a bit, and the face was still lit up, but there's no more sound coming out of the stereo. So I figured, it's time to do a bit of an upgrade. So I made a decision to pull this dash apart and pull out this trusty Chrysler Special here with the AM/FM band and cassette deck option. On the screen, I'm going to throw up a picture that basically shows you what an original or a typical dash looks like in one of these trucks. Before you get to this stage here, you have two options you can consider. You can take and put a single DIN in down here, or you can do some more modifications and put a double DIN in with a touchscreen and a few other options that are available on those units. I basically went with this Pioneer unit. I had it sitting on the shelf for a little while. It's a Pioneer AVH 601. Schematics are available online if you choose to go with one of these, but basically they're all the same. Thing is, we had an information center here, which on this truck was basically inoperative since the computer died. And yes, these trucks do have a computer. At least this one did. It's down in the front wheel well up front there, and the thing is, a couple years ago, it either through just age or whatever, some moisture got into it, it shorted out. So we lost the speedometer, air conditioning, the charging system, and a few other features. To replace one of those computers, it's not cheap. To have a reman unit, you stand the chance of the same thing happening again. So decided to remove the computer and basically reconfigure a few of the things on the truck. If you guys are interested in any particular aspect of what we did with that, put it down in the comments below, and I'll see if I can get to that. Today I'm going to be working on getting this dash finalized. I got to get this truck back on the road. I'll just show you basically what I did here to get this unit here. It's a pretty big unit, but it does fit in this dash. Okay, so I hope you can see everything. First thing we did was pull this bezel off here, and there's a series of screws around the perimeter and under here, and basically a few clips, so you just undo those and you can wiggle it out without disassembling this column here. We tilted the steering down a bit to give us more access. You can drop the shifter down if you want. This vent over here on the driver's side is connected to this one here through a duct that runs in behind the speedometer cluster, into this gauge cluster. So basically the few screws around the perimeter, this comes out. Because this is a column shift, you have to disconnect the indicator here. It's a little wire hook that connects to the linkage up here. So you have to disconnect that, disconnect the wires, and then that instrument cluster will come out. What I did was I pulled this duct out, trimmed it to where I could fit the stereo in, and then connected it with a flexible corrugated hose that basically tied into this side of the plenum and to the shortened plenum over here. The HVAC controls had to be relocated to a new location. And since we had lots of space down below here where the old OEM unit, stereo unit was located, we relocated that into this spot here. The information center, since our computer was defective, it really wasn't doing anything anymore anyway. So that was kind of deep sixed. For you guys who are running with a computer still, you're gonna have to relocate the information center to a new location. And probably the best location is where your overdrive and cargo light switches are located. You have to make some modifications down there, but this will fit in that location. So you can remount that there. You'll have to cut a fresh hole in the bezel. The wires for the information center are long enough to reach that location, so that really isn't an issue. So I'll tuck those up out of the way. The other thing was we wanted to have a USB port located on the front for the phone charger and for MP3s. So the USB port basically fits into a closeout panel that was created to basically close off this larger hole and encompass these controls here. I have a few more wires to solder up, get those done, and then reconnect everything and see if it works. Now you guys might be wondering what these two switches here are for. Because we eliminated the computer, we no longer had the timed preheats for the engine. So this is basically a rocker switch that heats up one coil and then the second coil. So that's what that one is for. And this one here is the overdrive control. The computer controls the overdrive at specific intervals, like if you're over a certain speed. So since we don't have that functionality anymore, we had to create our own system. Basically what we had to do was go back to old school technology, put a sensor in, a pressure sensor on the transmission that gets grounded at a certain pressure and turns on your overdrive solenoid. But this has been an override for that solenoid, so we can turn it off or we can turn it on if we want to. A little brace was created here on this side of the HVAC controls to basically support this side. This side screwed right into the existing structure with a little spacer in behind to bring it out the appropriate distance so that it would fit the bezel. I have a few more wires to hook up, and we can get this thing plugged in, tested, and see how things work. I'm not a big fan of crimping wires. I like to solder everything. So I use my cremator here and get in and solder all my joints. That way I know we have a positive connection every time. Nicely wrap up every connection up nice and tight. So this is the extension for the USB port that sits on the closeout panel in the front of the bezel. This plugs into the back of the stereo. We have our antenna lead that goes over to the antenna. I've installed the microphone for a hands-free driving experience, if you will. And then we have the main plug for the stereo. So I'll get that all connected and we'll power things up and see how things go. So one thing I forgot to mention is that you will have to make some adjustments to your structure based on the location of your head unit here. And it wasn't very much, but a 1/4 inch on one side, 1/8 of an inch on the other side. Basically nip it out. We created a bracket that basically bolts to the head unit and screws into the front of the structure here. There's a bracket that extended off to the right of this gauge cluster here that had to be trimmed up a little bit, but it really wasn't a significant issue. Okay, so what do you say we try this out and see how it works? This is the stock speaker system in the truck. This is what it came with, so I haven't upgraded that yet, but we'll see how it sounds based on this new deck, see what it puts out, and if it means upgrading that, we will maybe in a later video. There's no signal in the shop here. Oh, there we go. So we do have music. I'm going to leave that off for now. I've got my USB key. I want to test that port out. And the USB, see how that sounds. Not bad. For a stock stereo or a speaker system, sounds pretty good. Let's get this truck back together and get into other stuff. So you can see how well this head unit fits in to this location where the information center was. And as I mentioned before, you can move that down below into this location if you still have your computer. If not, don't worry about it. HVAC controls sit very nicely in here, so we're all set there. So we have our USB key. We can just plug that into here. Let's see what that says. So that wasn't too bad. It looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Overall, I think the most time-consuming part was carefully disassembling everything. There's these friction clips down here. I wasn't familiar with that, so you just kind of had to pull it apart without forcing anything. We had to make that modification to the duct that went behind the gauge cluster here, so that we could basically stuff this unit further back. We gained about 3 inches by doing that. And then the trickiest part was to create a closeout panel that fit nicely around the HVAC controls. And it's glued into the back of the bezel panel, so it comes off with the panel, and this is left behind. These switches here, we relocated them into this location. They were on toggles before. This just looks better. In this area here, we were just able to cut out an area that fits the head unit nicely. This is where the old HVAC control sat, so that had to be closed in. Unless you find you can always put your USB key in that location if you ever wanted to, depending on the size of your receiver. Hope you guys got something out of this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, put them down below. I'll get to them. And I will throw a link in to the schematics for the stereo system on this truck. They're available online. You can ask Professor Google, but just for convenience, I'll include a link for that. Okay, guys, so thanks a lot for watching. Take care.